to work for the Cowboys and the Bengals today. Both those teams beginning organized team activities. Actually, interesting storylines with both. Let's start in Dallas. Schefter, George Pickens, we know he's going to play the year on the franchise tag. What is your sense of whether he will be there for this voluntary offseason work?
That's the key word there, Greeny, voluntary. And I would imagine that George Pickens, without a long-term agreement, is not going to volunteer to do very much of anything. So I would not expect him to be there. I think it would be more notable and newsy if he were there in attendance, but I would think short of him having the long-term deal that he's asked for and wanted, I don't expect to see him at anything voluntary.
Dan had a very interesting one in our pre-show meeting this morning. Dan, look into the Orlovsky crystal ball. If they have a good season and those receivers play well with Dak Prescott, which if they all stay healthy, there's every reason to think they will, tell us what it is you foresee in Big D.
Well, they're not keeping both of them. So it's either going to be signing George Pickens to a long-term deal that they've been hesitant to do, or CeeDee Lamb's going to be traded. Both are great receivers. I think CeeDee's proven to be a little bit more reliable, I guess, in personality maybe. I think that there's still some question marks in regards to George Pickens proving that maturity, but they're not keeping both.
Yeah, they are, Dan. Of course,
no, they're not.
Beyond this season.
After the season.
After the season.
After the season. Okay.
If they have a great season, then the option, just to be clear, I saw the look on Schefter's face.
They're not keeping both.
You may have missed the setup, which is if they have a great season, if everything goes really well, then they will have to choose, Dan is suggesting, between the two of them. And I thought it was interesting, Dominique, that Dan was suggesting. And look, if you had told me a year ago today the Cowboys are going to trade Micah Parsons, I would have laughed even louder than I'm laughing at this notion. So I guess with them, anything is possible. What do you think of it, Neek?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that George Pickens played last year was exciting and excellent. I think lots of teams would line up to get him. I'd be surprised if Dallas, off of these two seasons, decide to move on from CeeDee Lamb, who's been a dynamic player for them throughout the course of his time there. So, it would be shocking to me. Last year, I think Pickens was probably, you could argue, is more impactful, but in part because he got the benefit of playing opposite CeeDee Lamb. So it's hard to parse who's impacting whom, but you know that before Pickens got there, Lamb was a true number one. We haven't seen Pickens be a true number one outside of being in this situation with Dak Prescott and with CeeDee Lamb across from him. I think they both, are true number ones and will end up with their own teams. But I'd be shocked, unless there's some injury or something like that, if the Cowboys decide at the end of this year that they've decided to move on from CeeDee Lamb and stick with George Pickens.
Go ahead, Dan.
CeeDee's great. The 3 games that George Pickens played without CeeDee last year, he went for 19 catches, 359 yards, 4 touchdowns. They scored 40, 37, and 27. He's a great receiver. But I think George Pickens, everyone's thinking, well, George is just going to play this year, and it's really a tryout for the 31 other teams to prove it again. I just don't buy into that being the case. I think it's a trial for all 32. And if he goes and plays this way and handles himself this way, the way he did last year, then I think the Cowboys are going to be in a very unique situation. CeeDee Lamb's cap hit in 2027, $46 million. So business is business in that league, and I just don't think if they both played at their level, you can keep both at that number.
What's interesting is the Dallas Cowboys have been unwilling, as they've professed, to sign George Pickens to an extension now.
Right.
He's coming off his best season. They need to see that again.
Yes.
You think they're going to be any more likely to sign him to a long-term extension a year later,
Perhaps.
even if he does it again? I don't know about that.
Well, here's why I say so. Because, Dominique, I'll let you say it because I have a feeling you're going to say the same thing I'm thinking, and you'll say it better than I will. Go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about leverage. If I were to agree with Dan, it's about creating negotiating leverage against CeeDee Lamb, and that is the same thing that they tried to do with Micah Parsons. But eventually that leverage becomes like you can't keep bluffing about doing it. So when they're renegotiating with CeeDee Lamb next year, they're going to also have George Pickens apparent or potentially to replace him. And they're going to say, this is your contract, this is what you're going to take. And at some point, if CeeDee Lamb's like, no, then they have the choice to re-sign him and trade him. So I think it's about creating creating leverage. If CeeDee Lamb pushes it to the limit, I think they will make that move that Dan suggested. But I think if they had it their way, I think they'd stick with CeeDee Lamb and move on from George Pickens.
And the reason, and Schefter, my response to you would be, I think having seen one season of professionalism and maturity is one thing. Having seen back-to-back seasons of it does feel different to me, which is to say I would be willing to pay. If I see another season, look, if he does if everything goes the way it might, Dan, you help me because you understand receiver play better than I do. I don't know that there's anybody in the league, with the exception of no one, more talented, purely talented than George Pickens at his position. Agreed. There are other question marks that exist. But whoever the best guys are, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and whoever they are, he's just as good and bigger and all of that. So if he does everything the right way, I don't know why he wouldn't get paid as much as absolutely anybody.
No, there's no question about it. George Pickens, the reason why he is the second-round pick and maybe traded is because of the personality. Yeah. Greeny, if CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are healthy, and they play to the level that we have seen them play at their highs in the NFL. The reality is this: the Cowboys will be in the playoffs. Yep. They will make a legit playoff run. Dak Prescott will very much so be in the MVP conversation, which are all great problems to have if you're Dallas. That being said, fast forward to a year from now, essentially, they will be forced to make a very interesting decision on letting one player walk and keeping CeeDee Lamb, or signing one player to a big extension, keeping him, and getting pretty high value for CeeDee Lamb from somebody else would be my guess.
All right, let me leave that there for the moment. There's a lot of other football stuff out there that we're going to get to. Obviously, also, we get back to the finals. The New York Knicks, in case word had, rather than me speculating whether or not A.J. Brown, who has been the center of all the trade discussion all spring long, is going to be on the field for that game. Schefty, we have been pointing to June 1st as the day that an A.J. Brown trade could happen. June 1st, as I check my watch, has actually arrived. Yeah. What is the latest?
Well, we'll give you the very latest, Greeny. The two sides, up until this weekend, had not spoken in weeks. The Patriots and Eagles, no contact. So at some point today, the two sides will get back on the phone with each other and resume any trade conversations that they postponed until today. And once they do, reconnect on the phone. The belief and expectation is they will come together and come up with a trade agreement that will send A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots. It's not in place just yet. There are still phone calls that have to take place today. But right now, it is hard to envision a scenario in which the two sides wouldn't come to an agreement and A.J. Brown doesn't wind up in New England with Mike Vrabel. I would think the trade occurs sometime in the next 24 hours.
24 hours. So, with that in mind, we're going to take this from both teams' perspective. A little later, we'll do the Patriots piece of it. Let's start with the Eagles piece of it. Dan Orlovsky, the Philadelphia Eagles minus A.J. Brown equals what?
Giant question mark. And Mekhi Lemon, who's their first-round receiver, will have more pressure on him as a rookie than any rookie in the NFL. Don't give me Fernando Mendoza. Don't give me Jeremiah Love. Don't give me Carnell Tate. This young man is replacing one of the 3 to 5 best receivers, and at times the best receiver in the NFL. At times, if you guys go back to the Rams game last year, AJ, go win one-on-one. Can he be that guy? Now, they're going to play offensively very different in Philly without A.J. Brown and under new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. Much more 2 tight ends rather than 1 tight end, less receivers on the field. And so their second-round pick, Eli Stowers, as well, tight end. Both those rookies have to be in the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation. They both have to be in the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation for the Eagles to kind of matter big time in that division and in those NFC playoff picture.
You see it that way, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a stretch that they have to be in the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation. I think Mekhi Lemon's a good player, but expecting him to replace A.J. Brown, I think, is a mistake. I think that's what Devontae Smith is going to be. He's going to be the true number one clearly now and not a 1B as he's been in the past, which we all know he's capable of being that true number one. But I did like Dan bringing up Eli Stowers. Size-wise, he's a lot closer to A.J. Brown than Mekhi Lemon or anybody is on the field. And as far as winning one-on-one matchups, you're going to have Eli Stowers, an incredible college tight end with creating matchup advantages when he's the second tight end on the team with his athleticism. That's the guy that I think is going to become a major part of this offense. He was awesome for Vanderbilt the last 2 years. I think in this offense, they're going to find ways to shift in motion, create running advantages, and then matchup advantages for Stowers.
I think Devontae Smith is the guy where the pressure falls on, and the Eagles absolutely believe he is up to being a #1 receiver. When you speak to the people in that organization, it might be that he is one of the most respected, if not the most respected, toughest player on that team. And with A.J. Brown going, that just means more targets for a guy like Devontae Smith. Yes, there's pressure on Mekhi Lemon, just like there'll be pressure on Dontavian Wicks and Hollywood Brown and Elijah Moore and all the wide receivers the Eagles have added this offseason in anticipation of today. But Devontae Smith is the guy that may bear as much of the responsibility of replacing A.J. Brown as anybody else.
Danny, final word.
Zero doubt Devontae Smith can replace the production A.J. Brown has. He is. If you don't think Devontae's a #1 receiver, you just haven't been watching. My point on Mekhi Lemon is this. Dallas has got 2. The Rams have got 2. The Seattle Seahawks have got 2. Those teams Minnesota's got 2 receivers that are guys. If you're going to matter in the NFC back-end playoff picture, you have to have 2 receivers that are big-time players. That's why the pressure's on Lemon to replace that #1, #2 wide receiver role.
Saquon catches the ball, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what their offense winds up looking like under their new offensive coordinator. Again, Schefter is saying in the next 24 hours, we might see this trade that we've been waiting for all offseason long. We're just getting rolling. As you can see, everybody's got a lot to